Tamara Leach, one of the main organizers of the trucking convoy. She's a member of the Maverick Party, and the Maverick Party stated it's not directly involved with the convoy. And a spokesperson said Leach was volunteering as an individual completely separate from the Maverick Party. And Tamara Leach is a former energy industry worker and a leader within the Wexit movement pushing for the independence of Western provinces. Leach was involved with the Yellow Vest protests and United We Roll trucker protest convoy. Now, I called out the Yellow Vests in my Pat King video. And the other organizer we have is BJ Dichter, or Benjamin Dichter, a self-described equal privileges advocate who was once a jewel etcher. He's a money manager or proprietor of Advanced Printing Administration, and he once ran for councillor of Ward 27 in Toronto as a conservative competitor. And we see that BJ Dichter is organizing this fundraiser, Operation Killswitch Tom Quiggin Legal Defense. Now, I already called out Tom Quiggin as an information gatekeeper in Policing for Freedom Part 1. Now, this is the first press release of the trucker convoy leaders on February 3rd, 2022. And in the corner we have Danny Bulford, and then we also have the lawyer Keith Wilson, who works for Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms, also known as JCCF, who receives their funding from the Atlas Network, as I called out in Policing for Freedom Part 3, which is policing organization. He's a member of the policing organization I called out. So, in this interview, Tamara states that she's not going to back down and the protests won't stop unless mandates are fully lifted. And Danny Bulford states that it's his job to assist the organizers with security and liaison with police. And I don't know how current this information is, considering some of the crowdfunding mishaps I'll get to, but it says that Danny Bulford is working with the Adopt a Trucker Volunteer Coordination Center in support of Freedom Convoy 2022. Danny states that the various police forces and equipment seen is standard practice, supposedly, and it's his concern for individuals or groups who instigate conflict with the convoy that are going to discredit the convoy. And Keith describes GoFundMe as holding the bulk of the money, and because they were bombarded with a orchestrated social media and other campaigns to try and shut it down or take it, has exercised heightened due diligence, which he welcomes. And as well, I believe on January 31st, there was a Not-for-Profit Canada Corporation, which they incorporated. So here's the dated GoFundMe, which you probably don't want to read. And then we have the Not-for-Profit Canada Corporation, known as Freedom 2022 Human Rights and Freedoms. And we see more detail where it's incorporated, registry number, and names included. Now, what happened this morning to me when I was preparing to film this video was I went on this adoptatrucker.ca, and as soon as I clicked on any one of these, it led me to this right here, regardless of which of the hyperlinks I clicked. And as well, the Washington Post here, this was an article that said that the convoy, the crowdfunding site for Canadian Freedom Convoy disabled in possible hack. And apparently the words "now frozen" briefly appeared on the Give, Send, Go website with an image of the Disney film. I haven't had the luxury to see this as of yet, so this is the second press conference, which I'm going to get to, and the second press conference has everybody else: Tamara Leach, BJ Dichter, Danny Bulford, Keith Wilson, and as well there's Tom Quiggin in the room as well. And BJ starts off by saying that GoFundMe pulled the funding and was under some pressure and decided they were going to refund everybody who donated. And He also mentions that Bitcoin and electronic wallets as well were used to donate to the Freedom Convoy, and we're going to talk quite a bit about the blockchain and Bitcoin in this video, actually. And Lincoln J., a reporter from Rebel News, asks, have you heard from any representative from GoFundMe? And BJ says they got an alert on a notice on their file saying thanks that their campaign is being terminated. And initially they said they were going to terminate it, and anybody who doesn't request a refund, those refunds will be held for them to do as they please, and they suggested likely donating to a quote-unquote charity of their choice. Now, Keith Wilson chimes in and says that they received an email notifying them that they were canceling the campaign and diverting the funds to a charity of their choice unless people went through a refund process. They simultaneously posted it on the GoFundMe account, and there was no prior warning. And in their announcement, they spoke of collaboration with the Ottawa Police Service, who issued a tweet praising GoFundMe for being responsive and taking down the donations. Now, Lincoln J., the reporter from Rebel News, asks Tamara if there are concerns there may be with GiveSendGo, and she says no. Keith chimes in that there is extensive written legal assurances that under no circumstances would donations be withheld. And BJ mentions that he received an email from Dave Rubin of the Rubin Report connecting him with the executive team to build a platform on locals as well. And Lincoln J. asks them to then comment on the surge and contain strategy put forth by the police. And Tom Quiggin says that there doesn't appear to be a clear strategy that the opposition has. And he says that Watson and Trudeau are tied in a lot of the same SNC-Lavalin scandals. And Bulford says since early last week, he was set up in the Volunteer Coordination Center and was put in constant communication with liaisons from the Ottawa Police, RCMP, OPP, and Parliamentary Protective Service, PPS, and has been open about sharing information that could be public safety or security related. And he says his concern is quote-unquote bad actors. They're trying to tarnish the reputation of what the truckers are trying to accomplish. He said it's laughable that they're described as terrorists or holding the city hostage. If he sees two words together which connect political violence, the first call he'll make is to the integrated National Security Enforcement Team of the RCMP, and second goes to the Ottawa Police Intelligence Section. Bulford knows police in charge of the integrated National Security Enforcement Team in Ottawa and interacted with them many times over the last 4 years of his time in the team in Ottawa. So it sounds like Bulford and Quiggin in particular are misdirecting people on an exterior threat. And don't get me wrong, there are exterior threats. However, there are so many shady elements within this movement in and of itself, and the groups and people that are attaching themselves to the convoy. So not all threats are external, as they would want you to believe. And another reporter who doesn't identify themselves asks why don't they distance themselves from Pat King, and BJ says he addressed the issue already on RT. And BJ says that because the movement is so organic, there are many people in different groups that have latched onto the movement, and anybody who behaves and understands that it's a positive environment and that this is just about unity and family. And he says he can't police everybody's behavior, which is true. However, these groups are far from organic and most definitely have shady ties. And another reporter chimes in that Pat King was one of the initial organizers. I don't know how true that actually is, because it just seems like my opinion of, who the organizers are can be skewed very easily when there's so much misleading information and several people are claiming to be organizers. And as Keith, the lawyer, says, we have a lot of people in the forums claiming to be spokespeople and representatives. These are the spokespeople and representatives. And he doesn't make it clear who these are, whether that's BJ and Tamara or everybody in the room, So I'm gonna just move forward with the third press conference here. Oops, let me just back up a little bit. Okay. So in the third press conference, what happens is BJ thanks the attorney of Florida, Ron DeSantis, and Ted Cruz for speaking out. Now, I think it's just kind of funny that he's saying this because, as you can see by their movements here, and by this tab I'm going to show you, Ted Cruz himself is doing the Masonic hidden hand alongside people's hero, Donald Trump. And look at that, Keith Wilson is still going on with the triangle formation. And there's a lot of different signs throughout the entirety of, I want to say, the better part of 10 minutes. Now, moving forward, BJ put out a tweet to the Bitcoin community, and in his words, and I said just very subtly, perhaps this is the time where we should look at Bitcoin as an alternative. And another quote, he says, but I was shocked how quickly I started getting messages from some of the most prominent Bitcoiners in the world, some big players in the States saying, we're here to help you. The whole principle, philosophy of what Bitcoin is freedom and, self-sovereignty in terms of monetary policy. Well, I'm going to talk about how Bitcoin is connected to biometrics eventually. And, blockchain is connected to biometrics. And so I'll never invest in Bitcoin. I'll never tell people what they should or shouldn't do. However, I just feel that it's fueling the system to use the blockchain in itself. So, moving forward, Keith discusses legal points and mentions that they were in court and that there was an injunction application brought forward. And there's a 10-day injunction telling truckers they can't use their horns, according to him. And Keith also promotes Justice McClain and assures that he is fair. Now, he also mentions that there are some elements to this whole movement here, where he mentions the governor general striking the government and magically appointing a committee, which he describes as fairy dust and having no basis in reality. So I don't actually know what he is specifically referring to as some type of plan to strike the government, but what I can tell you is that Canada Unity did have a very vague and ominous memorandum, and the Governor General was one of the many parties involved, and the submission was to the United Nations Human Rights Council, as well as the Canadian Human Rights Council. I was lucky enough that I was able to print out the MOU. However, I don't think this is something that people should have been signing whatsoever. Moving forward about Bitcoin, BJ mentions that somebody named Nick reached out to him, and Nick is basically not a Bitcoin expert. He does not describe himself as such. He describes himself as a liaison to Bitcoin experts. And funny enough, Keith describes Bitcoin as a merging of money and democracy. I sincerely disagree with you, buddy. BJ claims that Dave Rubin reached out to him and that they'll be setting up donations on Locals, and he mentions some of the donation options, which were Give, Send, Go, Freedom Convoy on Locals, and as well a Tallycoin link. And this Tallycoin link is still loading, and I don't exactly know the issue, but a lot of weird things have happened today. I don't know if that's just being shut down, but I very much doubt it, considering it's Bitcoin related, and I feel that blockchain is part of the center of this agenda. As BJ ends up saying, I think a decentralized internet in the future will correct this. Now, there are reasons for promoting Bitcoin here. There are 3 prime questions, and this is where Nick leads. And I want to say at about 27 minutes or so is when Keith and Tamara leave. So the 3 questions put forth are, why choose Bitcoin? How is Bitcoin going to be put to use? And importance of freedom money. So why choose Bitcoin? I'll give you their fluff answers here that they tell you. Because of censorship through third-party companies, Canadian banking system, and government control. And BJ gives the example of when GoFundMe released 1 million out of the 10.1 million of their bank TD and ended up freezing it. How is Bitcoin going to be put to use? A Bitcoin endowment for truckers, and every transaction that's done will be fully documented and transparent. What is the importance of freedom money? We're not free until politicians remove control over our money and we return to a sound money standard and not dig ourselves into massive debt. So all of these things sound great on the outside here, but if I actually just want to direct you to the truth about blockchain and biometrics, we see this title, Integration of Blockchain and Biometrics to Redefine Digital Identity by 2030. And down here, by 2030, advancements in blockchain technology will lead to its integration with biometrics, resulting in the establishment of a single token digital identity for individuals. And there are programs such as the World Bank's ID4D initiative, as well as industry areas such as identity as a service, airport security, and the use of blockchain for traveler identity management. This is Accenture, who is part of ID 2020 Alliance. I think I might have covered them in the past in a very old video of mine. And here, combining the power of biometrics and blockchain to provide a global identity solution. What do we know? And here we see Accenture is one of the partners with ID 2020. And who are their general partners? Oh, look at that. Blockchain. DIACC, otherwise known as Digital Identity and Authentication Council of Canada. And they have this document here called Consumer Digital Identity Leveraging Blockchain. Okay, the last little bit of this presentation here before I give my conclusive thoughts are this TV series that was sent to me by a friend, and there's all kinds of people, freedom fighters supposedly, in this movie, such as Maxime Bernier. As well, we're going to see other familiar faces, hopefully soon if I can scroll faster. Rocco Galati, Randy Hillier, and I think Vlad Sobolev is in here somewhere as well. So, all in all, what I just want to say is that the blockchain is a very deceptive tool being used right now and promoted because of the hindrance of all of these crowdfunding setups that are failing by the trucker convoy organizers. However, the trucker convoy organizers are not really on our side because they're trying to promote the Internet of Things and the blockchain, and in itself as well, they have some very sketchy ties. And both sides of a narrative are always controlled by the same people or same groups of people all the time, and the name of the game is polarity here. The way they pit us against one another is by setting up two different sides and there being conflict between both of these parties, and we're not even centralized focused on the true enemy. Now, Bitcoin has a very big illusion of being decentralized, yet the blockchain, everything is recorded like a ledger system, and nothing can be erased to my particular knowledge. So, very much like how you can create almost seemingly unlimited information, is like how your brain and its thought patterns can create seemingly unlimited sacred geometry through its electrical currents. All in all here, this is going to be a very big turning point for the world. And I support everybody who has their heart in the right place, but people unfortunately have to wake up and smell the roses. Thanks for listening. Take care.